Hey guys, what is going on, and welcome back to another video on Conqueror's Blade, as we are going to be diving into the Imperial Shield Guards, a unit that I have just not played for ages. Now, full disclaimer, this is really not a guide video in any way. I've just been tossing around with them really, giving them a bit of a play, a bit of a test out. I have not done any of the unit mastery on them. Actually, not that long ago, just got them actually leveled back up because they obviously went from a max level of 18 to a max level of 24 with the new season. Just been playing around with them kind of to see what they're like, and they are actually really good. I think they, for a long time, really fell out of favour really as a usable unit, but their block is now just so high, they are such a tanky shield unit. So to break down a little bit on the veterancy lines, actually with the extra levels you get now, you can almost get nearly all the way down to the other line. But really, it's just all about the defensive increases. You get some really nice things down here. Now, somewhere down here, there is the Shield Bash, which is a passive skill. If you ever tried to fight these guys as a hero, really kind of annoying. Sometimes you're just about to go for your ability, and you get nudged just slightly by one of these guys with the shield. Really kind of annoying. Yeah, you get nudged, and that's the knockdown as well. So, yeah, stat-wise, 32 men in the unit, running almost 14,000 hit points, with some defensive stats well over 1,000 piercing defense and pretty high slashing defense as well. There's a lot of defensive stats that you basically don't get to see on this basic stats overview. There's a damage reduction modifier somewhere which is just not visible, and that is quite high on these guys as a unit. We see some bits of it in the way it talks about, in terms of things like locked shields, heavy armor, insulated for the fire resistance, etc. So there are kind of a few interesting things there. Now, in terms of doctrines, I kind of got a few nice things on them. This defense doctrine is quite nice. That's giving them a significant buff to their base defensive values. That's what's helping me get them well over that 1,000 with their piercing defense. But you're also getting that 6% damage reduction, which is nice as well. Of course, got the increased block and block recovery, just the flat increased block, and a little bit of damage reduction as well there, which interestingly, I'm surprised it almost lets me put both of those sort of things on there. That's kind of nice to know. And I put a little bit of a damage doctrine on them there as well, just up their damage slightly. This unit really isn't about getting a large amount of kills. That's really kind of not the point of them. But it does provide them with a nice little base buff because their sort of minimum damage is pretty low, and so you're kind of upping that by using a damage doctrine. And it just kind of makes them that at least you do something. And, over time, given how long these guys actually last in combat, they tend to do quite well. But anyway, I think I've probably waffled on long enough. We obviously, of course, have got the mastery line, which has recently been introduced. I'd started doing this unit video long before the mastery line got introduced, and I'm not about to scrap it now just so I can start going down this veterancy line. So, sod it. But I'm kind of looking forward to this 10% movement speed buff, which does seem kind of appealing. And there's also things like this base healing load, which is quite nice. It's already making a good unit and just making them that much better. So it seems like it's going to be some pretty nice additions. Anyway, let's hop into some battles and see what we can do. So we kick things off on a little bit of border fort. Pushing in from the right-hand side. Kind of a little bit tempted to have a little bit of a go at these javelins. These are just the lower tier ones, not really too much to deal with. Go in, get the jump on them, and get stuck in. Sticking the unit on cover commander at this point, pulling them to me. And really my main aim is to try and cover these fortebrasses once we decide where we're kind of going. I guess really, this unit is not really about getting kills. They don't really do much damage. It's just about being at the front. So here in this situation, we've got the 40s kind of essentially inners, for want of a better word. And we're just there to take the damage. It's the 40s that are actually doing the killing, or the allied units. 40s, we've also got some of the friendly new tier 5 and stuck in as well. We're just there to absorb the damage. And we can do that really very easily. This unit is so tanky now in the game. If you get completely overwhelmed on your own, then yeah, they do get killed relatively easily. But honestly, they're just so strong in these sort of group fights. They're just absolutely perfect for it. I think I have a tendency often with most units to say I prefer to fight them one-on-one because you can control the engagement, you can use your hero more in the fight. I find I can much more convincingly with most units win in one-on-one fights. This unit is not that. This unit is the group fighting unit. They are much better in these sort of bigger fights because they can do what they really are supposed to be doing, which is just tanking damage for your team, just being the block that stands in front. I kind of get in this situation, you see like a little bit stuck at the top of the staircase, and we can kind of push around a little bit. Don't unfortunately quite manage to catch that Maul who just manages to get out the fight, which is kind of annoying. But we can see we can just kind of wait around at the top as we kind of decide where we're going to be going with this fight before we can push down onto the supply point. I do tend to run this unit primarily in cover commander. You kind of saw as we were capping the A point, I did stick them in a line just to sort of block off if any heroes are going to try and make a run for the A point. But generally, cover commander just seems to be the preferred way to go. And in terms of damage, the unit doesn't really hit very hard. I mean, we kind of said that already. They do get a little bit of a nudge with the shield bash, but they're not particularly hard. I'm doing the bulk of the damage really as me as the hero, and using them to sort of protect me, and I can put out the damage. Now, I was really far too much of a coward here. I could kind of see that the enemy were abandoning the supply point, so really we should have pushed in much earlier because we could have actually caught more stuff as it backed out at that point. But I saw that enough was going, and those 40s were just too tempting to leave, so I couldn't help but push in, get them, and there we go. We sort of get ourselves up to 50 kills, captured the A point, captured the supply point, and at this point I end up swapping out to a different unit as we then go and make our final push to push on to the final base point. So, switching from attack to defense, we are defending the final point on Imperial Sands. Just kind of waiting to decide which way the enemy is going to come from, really. Have a little look at this poleaxe, basically as they start to push up. They initially come up with the Romans, as you can see, doing quite an effective job of just smashing through the halberdier sergeants. We managed to get the poleaxe, and then we can just push in. I just kind of like this clip because it shows a little bit how tanky they are. We've got the Romans, we've got the Crescent monks hitting in as well. Actually, you can see that the unit really doesn't take that much damage. We can get a few trebs coming in as well. We then get the rest of the team come sort of swooning in, and we just basically finish and wipe off what's left. But it's amazing how much stuff can fly into these guys, and particularly on the short term where the block is still sort of on full recharge, they really take very, very little damage. Although that longsword did an annoyingly good job of escaping and kind of giving me the runaround, but it kind of highlights what the unit can do. We then go on the heal up, start to push back to the point because we've got a couple of enemy heroes on point. We've also got enemy stalwarts coming in, so we're trying to just use the unit to try and block them up and just hold up on the point, as the rest of the team can then kind of cycle around and come back to help defend. You not really very good English there. We don't really get very many kills against the stalwarts. We're not really pushing through them super effectively, but we do get in and we can push through them without too much trouble. And you can see we've still got the full unit, no one died, and our healing is going to be shortly off cooldown. And that's what makes this unit really kind of nice. Just the tankiness is just so extreme. And finally, we end up on a little bit of a clip on Shield of the Capital. We're again on the defensive, lost a few of the unit already, and just trying to hold the main point. Quite a hard final base point to defend, I kind of find this one. Quite a few enemies pushing in. We get the Romans coming in from the front. I kind of basically try and do my best to avoid their charge, because that's the most damaging bit. If they hit me full on with the Roman charge and then do their shield bash into me, that's when they're kind of damaging. We get some friendly fortibraccios coming in from behind, so we kind of support that. But I don't really want to be pushing out with the unit. That's kind of not really where I want to be going. I managed to secure the kill on the pike. It was kind of lucky. But I don't really want to be pushing out of the gateway. So we kind of pull back in, wait to see what the enemy team's going to be doing, because they're almost certainly going to be counterattacking. And if you push out, get yourself killed. It's kind of, you know, when they kind of push back in, it's just not worth it. So we've got about half the unit left. Thinking about slightly covering these Janissaries here, although to be honest I'm not quite sure why they just sort of stood out in the open. They're inevitably going to get shot to pieces. I'm also conscious of any cavalry trying to flank around the back. Obviously you don't really have any anti-cav capability. Now the enemy starts to then push on the side flank, and I'm kind of conscious of those Romans that are in the front flanking us here, but I decide it's better to make a move and to try and deal with one of these sides at a time rather than wait for them both to fall on me at the same time. So we push in, get a hero kill, but as we do that, the Romans do what we kind of think they're going to do. They come in at the back, but because we've slightly neutralised that threat on one side, we can continue to push in with them and then push, and we manage to then deal with the Romans and then turn around and deal what's left with the other flank as well. So they are pretty good in these kind of tight spots because they're so tanky, and you can keep yourself alive as a hero. It seems to work quite nicely. I'm now running this as a heavy armor glaive, still full strength, but yeah, heavy armor, so I am a little bit more tanky than I have been previously just running it with medium armor, so it does kind of make a difference. Survivability is kind of important in this, and you do actually get a survivability buff when you have them in cover commander. You can actually see it there on the bottom bar. You get basically a defensive increase, so yeah, it does kind of work out quite nicely running them in conjunction with the hero. Anyway, at that point, we then start to sally out, and this time it really kind of is successful, and we drive them back out basically of the castle entirely. So, yeah, Imperial Shield Guards in a really nice place at the moment. I think they fulfill their niche really nicely. Very heavy shield unit, very, very tanky, do their job really well, but don't really have that much damage, which is kind of the place that they should be. Anyway, hopefully you enjoyed the video. Let me know what you think in the comments down below, and I shall see you all on the next one.